One strategy for going up is take an easier pace than you might feel you're capable of and keep some in reserve, because there's a long ways to go. And don't be afraid to take breaks. Take some breaks, relax, breathe, recover, eat some food, drink some water, don't forget your electrolytes, and just go when you're ready to go. And a lot of times that's how people are able to just make it out of the canyon. If you try to go too fast, sometimes that's when you get into trouble. It's happened to me many times. And you know, we're taking it easy today, and going up this is amazing. It's awesome. It's fun, but it's brutal too. It's very steep. So we're just going a little bit, taking some breaks, get a little to eat, get a little to drink, check out the amazing view, and then start going again. The other thing that I highly recommend, and I think you'll find many people will recommend this, at least some of your training, I would say on your biggest workouts, before you go on your trip to the Grand Canyon, and preferably as much as possible, you are going to wear the equipment, and bring all the gear that you plan to wear in the Grand Canyon. One of the reasons for that, like hiking poles, for example, if you have hiking poles, make sure that you are training, at least some of your training includes your hiking poles. Why? Okay, well, one of the reasons is you don't want to be in the Grand Canyon getting used to your hiking poles for the first time. That's one more thing that will cause a mental weight. It will become a mental weight. And one more thing to become frustrated with, if you become frustrated, because hiking with hiking poles is a little bit different than what you might be used to. The idea for me is I want it to be second nature. I want these hiking poles to be an extension of my hands, my arms, just like an extension of my body. I want to be so accustomed to using them that I'm used to it while I'm there in the Grand Canyon, not having to fiddle with them and being frustrated because my hands are tied up with hiking poles and my arms are getting tired, and I'm not used to that. That's one more thing that can become a difficulty while you're there. One more thing on this, bringing the same gear or training with the same equipment that you're going to bring to the Grand Canyon. I have the same hydration vest that I usually take. I'm wearing the same shoes. I even have the same hat and the same clothing or similar clothing, all because I want my brain and my body to be so used to it, so accustomed to the things that I'm wearing and carrying, that it's just second nature. It's just several things that I don't have to worry about while I'm there. Another thing is I carry a headlamp in my pack. I carry an emergency space blanket. Even though I'm probably not going to use those things or may not use those things in my training, I'm going to carry those things with me in the Grand Canyon just in case. I definitely use my headlamp in the Grand Canyon, but the other thing that this does is it helps you remember to bring the things that you're going to need. You're so used to bringing them anyways that it's part of your basic checklist that you're always going to do. So you're so accustomed to it, you minimize the potential of forgetting something that you might actually need while you're there and be kicking yourself because you forgot it. A good tip to remember when you're in the Grand Canyon, to constantly be eating a little bit at a time and to eat before you get hungry.
Try one of these.
If you wait until you're hungry, then you're going to be behind on your calories already. And then you just get into the zone of potential trouble. Your body is closer and closer to giving out. And then you have to really take a break. It's hard to recover from that. And it becomes a mental weight, very heavy mental weight, struggle, feeling that way and knowing that you're not even close to the top. And it can be overwhelming. And all because you didn't eat enough when you weren't hungry. So remember to eat, even when you're not hungry. A couple more things about food. When it comes to food, you want to try a lot of different things, and you want to bring those things and try those things during your training, when you're preparing for the Grand Canyon. Part of the preparation, including, in addition to your physical fitness, right, your physical training, is to train with the gear, like we talked about, bring your gear, but also try out different foods, try out different kinds of electrolytes, and see what works for you. A lot of times what happens is that you love a certain food and you think, man, I could eat this food every day. But then you go to the Grand Canyon, or you go on a long hike or a long trail run, and you see that food and it's the last thing that you want. In fact, it might even make you feel like gagging. It's the weirdest thing, right? So you want to try that out before you go to the Grand Canyon, so you know that, when you know what to expect in that situation. Okay, so you also want to bring a variety and try a variety of foods again during your training, and bring a variety of foods when you go to the Grand Canyon. A good rule of thumb is, I like to say, something salty, something sweet, something crunchy, something soft. So a lot of different flavors, a lot of different textures, because again, you never know what you're going to want on that day, and what you're going to be able to eat, or what you're going to be able to feel like, or what you're going to feel like eating, and what you're going to be able to stomach. The weirdest thing in the world is having one of your favorite foods with you and finding that you're hungry, but you just don't want to eat that particular food. And that's one reason you want to bring a variety of foods, right? Because one thing might not sound very appetizing, but something else will. But if you get to a point where nothing sounds appetizing, you need to stop, and you need to force yourself to eat. Just nibble, nibble, nibble until you start feeling better. And so you can then start eating a little bit more and get some calories back in you. So bring a variety, test it out during your training, the different foods that you think you might bring in the Grand Canyon. Something salty, something sweet, something crunchy, something soft. Another tip about eating and hydration is, do not rely only on water to hydrate. If you are only drinking water throughout the day, you are not hydrating. You have to make sure that you combine that water with electrolytes. Now, I know you're probably wondering, well, okay, bring some electrolytes and don't only drink water. What's the ratio of water to electrolytes? Well, that's actually a more complicated question, and it's really going to depend on the person, on the individual. Ideally, you are training with electrolytes, and you're training in conditions that are somewhat similar to the Grand Canyon. If you have some proximity, you can come up here, close like we do. We live just 4 hours away or so. You can come up here and train. Like today is an epic adventure, but it's also a training day for rim to rim to rim, R3, or a double crossing, whatever you want to call it. Well, that last clip makes it sound like we go to the Grand Canyon like every weekend to do our training. And that's definitely not true. We actually, we live close and we can go there often, but we usually only go about 2 or 3 times per year, which still is quite a lot, especially if you live far away. But most of the time what I'm doing is I go to a hill next to my house. If you're familiar with the channel, if you watched my videos, I go to Santan Mountain Regional Park and I hike up a trail called the Gold Mine Trail up Gold Mine Mountain. The idea is that you're finding something that approximates the Grand Canyon conditions. So you will have to figure out the ratio of electrolytes to water for yourself, right? You might consider at least half of your water is filled with electrolytes. What I do, what I've developed over time, and what I've arrived at is that I do not drink very significant amounts of water at all unless it has electrolytes in it. So I have this little bladder right here, this little bottle right here. I don't know if you can see that. I fill that full of water and I fill it full of electrolytes, and that's what I drink out of. This camel pack, or this bladder on my back, that is just for carrying water that I need. I use that to fill up this bottle here. Okay, and then I put water from the back, from my backpack, bladder, the hydration vest, put water in this little bottle, and I fill that full of electrolytes. So when I'm here, I do not drink any appreciable amount of water unless it has electrolytes in it, and I do that all day long. Okay, what I was trying to say is that all the water that I drink in the Grand Canyon contains electrolytes, unless I am just rinsing my mouth out because I'm trying to get the, you know, the taste or something out of my mouth, clean my mouth out for whatever reason. That's what I've had to do. That's what works for me. That might be too much for some, but for me it works very, very well. And so that's what I've come to. But because I have a history of getting sick and I've narrowed it down to electrolyte imbalance, I've had to kind of really go to some extreme in terms of taking my electrolytes in throughout the day. And you're gonna have to figure that out on your own. Just make sure that you're not only drinking water. If you have a lot of the problems in the Grand Canyon happen because people drink too much water and it dilutes the electrolytes that they need for their body to function. That's why people start feeling sick. That's why people will bonk. People are puking on the side of the trail. People are feeling really weak, maybe even a little bit dizzy. Have to take a break. Your body just doesn't feel right. Very often, especially when people come here and it gets really hot, very often, and most often, it is an electrolyte imbalance. It's hot. People are drinking a bunch of water and not getting enough electrolytes, and they are not eating enough. So hopefully some of that dialogue, some of that information will help you have a better trip, have a better experience in the Grand Canyon. One more tip, which isn't really a tip, but if you want to get a really good workout, hike up a hill and try having a conversation, like making a video, narrating and talking into a camera while you're hiking uphill. It's making it way harder to do this. It's funny. That's an optional one. You don't have to do that if you don't want to.